Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our streaming coverage of the federal civil rights trial for the three former Minneapolis police officers who assisted in the arrest of George Floyd. Now, the three officers, J. Alexander King, Thomas Lang, and Tu Tao, are accused of depriving George Floyd of his civil rights back on May 25th of 2020. Essentially, they were accused of illegally seizing George Floyd and depriving him of his liberty without due process. We should note that Derek Chauvin, the fourth police officer on the scene that day, is now serving a prison sentence for George Floyd's death. Derek Chauvin has already pleaded guilty in this federal civil case, which brings us essentially to today. This is jury selection for those three other officers. Our Rob Olson has been in federal court in St. Paul. He joins us now from the scene. And Paul, there are some striking differences from this trial, from the Derek Chauvin case last year. Let's start with the most obvious, and that is no cameras inside of a federal courtroom.
Yeah, no, federal court and state court are very distinctly different in the way that they get set up. And as you noted there, the chief among them is the fact that there is no cameras in court for this. There is no way to watch this on a live stream outside of the courthouse. Many of the media are in an overflow room, so we watch it on a closed circuit television inside the overflow room here in a jury assembly room. There's only four media that are selected to be in the courtroom on a pool basis, and the rest, again, watching on closed circuit television. So far, that camera only showing Judge Magnuson on the bench, and not showing any other members of the courtroom. We know that the three who are standing trial, the three former officers, are in the courtroom with their attorneys. We know there's a juror pool that was initially 30 people also in the courtroom all at once, but that has now been whittled down to 21 already just through the initial process.
And Rob, one of the other big differences here in this federal case is, unlike the other cases we've seen, especially with the case of Kim Potter here in district court in Hennepin County last month, is that in this case the judge pretty much questions the jurors and decides who's going to sit on this jury, correct?
Well, so far, yeah, and that's the case. You know, I've covered a couple other federal trials before and seen jury selection, and again, operating much differently than you may have seen. But again, the judge has a lot of leeway on how they do that. So far, what we're seeing is the judge alone asking questions. So they brought in this pool of 30, and they had them all run down their brief biographical details, what county they're from, their occupation, family, etc. Again, without giving away anything too personal, but just the basics here, just to see if any of the attorneys involved have any concerns about any of the things mentioned there. And so far, again, people from 12 different counties have counted so far, because again, federal case here, drawing people from all across Minnesota, not just a particular county. But these 30 jurors then, initially, then they're asked if they have any objections, if they have any concerns. One immediately said, you know, my spouse works for the FBI, and the FBI is involved in this case, and the judge said, okay, you're gone, you're excused. Others had other issues related to video. One said it was very difficult. She recently lost her spouse to cancer, didn't want to watch any videos involving death, and the judge says, I don't know what videos will be introduced as evidence, but there will be videos introduced as evidence, obviously related to the George Floyd's murder, and so he then excused her as well. Again, 9 jurors total excused for various reasons by the judge himself. The lawyers have not had any input on that, so it's the judge going through that initially. So there's 21 now. They're in a lunch break, and afterwards we move on to then some of the other questioning.
Rob, how many in total is Judge Magnuson wanting to sit for this trial, including the alternates? Do we know that yet?
Well, I believe it's at this point pretty much the same as any other trial. 12 jurors and 2 alternates is what I understand it to be going into this. So they've got several hundred called for prospective jurors here, but again, 30 brought in. And you know, maybe they'll get it out of this first pool. Unlikely. You don't often see that happen, but it could. They'd like to get jury selection wrapped up by tomorrow, by the end of day tomorrow, so that they can move on Monday to opening statements. But they're allotting time for Monday as well. Opening statements, they say, would be no earlier than Monday. So they'll move through this pretty quick once they get through this initial kind of whittling down. I think it'll start moving much quickly, more quickly.
And you may not know the answer to this, so forgive me, but I'm just kind of curious if they exhausted this current pool of 30 and don't have the 14 jurors that they need for this trial, is there another pool of 30 that can be brought in?
There's another pool of 30 already here.
Okay.
Waiting elsewhere in the courthouse.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Again, they sent the jurors back, this pool back, to eat lunch and to look over a witness list, a potential witness list. That's the next step. Do you see anybody on this list that you may know or have any sort of contact with or familiarity that might cause a conflict? And he said, we've got other jurors here. They've already had their lunch and they're just sitting and waiting. Mm-hmm. And so again, they're already here to move on to this afternoon if need be.
Judge Paul Magnuson, he's been on the bench a long time, a senior federal judge here in the Minnesota district.
Tim, I've lost you here.
Oh, okay. We'll stand by just a moment to see if we're able to come back up here. If Rob is not able to get my audio signal back here, let me tell you just a little bit of background of Judge Paul Magnuson. Appointed by Ronald Reagan in 1981. He's been on the bench now for more than 40 years. He's considered a senior judge here in the state of Minnesota. Very prominent lawyer. Did his legal training at William Mitchell College of Law, where he has his law degree and has even taught there from time to time over the years. One of the key differences, and Rob and I have been talking about the difference between district court and federal court. If you've ever been to a federal court trial, it is very businesslike. It is a very different kind of atmosphere in the courtroom. And Rob, I understand you can hear me now. Tell us a little bit about Judge Magnuson's style so far today.
Preside over other trials here as well. Very laid back, very conversational, very warm, but as you mentioned, businesslike at the same time. Kind of like a professor, as if you think about a favorite professor who's very serious about what they're doing, but also very comfortable at the same time. And he joked as he's asking potential jurors here about who they may be related to, if there's any relatives that might be connected to this. And he said, I'm a Swede, and I'm related to every Swede in Minnesota. So I mean, there's a limit to what you can count as a relative. So he had them laughing at that. He's very casual, very comfortable, but very much in charge. And again, you see that with these federal trials, where they very much have that air of authority, but it's not overwhelming. It's not very aggressive authority. It's just very, very firm, I guess, grandfatherly authority, if you wanted to make that analogy to it.
Rob, you talk about some of the jurors this morning. You mentioned coming from as far away as 12 different counties. Do you recall some of the counties and how far away that maybe some of these potential jurors came in from?
Yeah, I wrote a list down here, and it's in my notes on my laptop here, but obviously you've got Hennepin, Ramsey, Dakota, a number from those counties. Anoka County, you've got Rice County, Scott County, Olmsted County, which is Rochester, Blue Earth County, Sherburne County, St. Louis County was the one that is potentially the furthest away. So it does draw from across the state. Some of these people have come a considerable distance to do this. And, one of the first questions is, are you able to serve on this jury? Do you have any conflicts? One said, I'm a contractor. I am a deck builder. So right now it's slow. Come mid-March, things start picking up. So things can change. But for the most part, everybody said that a lot of retired folks in this juror pool so far that don't have a problem spending several weeks here.
Yeah, and Rob, again, to alert our viewers here who are watching us on the stream now on fox9.com and on our YouTube channel, this is a federal trial, very different from the other trials we've had in this case. No television coverage. So if you live here in the Twin Cities metro and thinking that you want to head down to the federal courthouse to watch this trial in person, not possible. Security is very, very tight there, isn't it?
Very tight. They've got the street blocked off in front of the federal courthouse here in St. Paul. They've got, fences up around with kind of just one way to get in with security. Now, there's always security in federal courthouses and now county courthouses as well, but federal courthouses have had tighter security for some time now, and so it is very, very careful here with this one way in. We are allowed to be as media in just a couple different areas here as well. There is a public viewing overflow room, but that is limited in number as well. And again, you've got to go through basically like airport security to get in here and watch that. So it is very different. They still try to be as transparent as possible. It is not an effort to try to conceal anything. It's just the federal courts work a little bit differently. So again, we're in there able to watch a live feed from the courtroom. We have full reporters in the courtroom. They just are very careful about not allowing cameras to show too much, including here. We are in the lobby of the courthouse, and we can basically only shoot the direction that we are. We can't show the rest of the lobby.
All right. Rob Olson coming to us from the federal courthouse in St. Paul. This is for the civil rights trial of 3 former Minneapolis police officers, J. Alexander King, Thomas Lane, and Tu Tao, accused of depriving George Floyd his civil rights during his arrest in May 25th of 2020. We are going to be doing this every day at about this time here, so please join us on the stream. We'll update you on the trial and the events that have happened during the morning and during the afternoon. Again, we're in the middle of a lunch break right now where jury selection is underway. This is day 1 of jury selection, and so far Rob Olson has said they've dismissed a total of 9 jurors so far today that the judge has questioned. More jury questioning this afternoon to try and get this jury of 12 jurors and 2 alternates for the trial to begin already on Monday. My name is Tim Blotz from Fox 9. On behalf of every one of us here, thanks for joining the stream. We'll be back later on with another update. Thanks so much.